have some ideas about how we can reduce existential dread for humanity? I think there's some low-hanging fruit on the tree, and that's sort of what I'm going after. Let's start by talking about Sartre's being in itself. Jean-Paul Sartre, a prominent existentialist philosopher, introduced the concept of in itself as part of his philosophical framework. In Sartre's ontology, the in itself represents one aspect of being, contrasted with the concept of for itself. The in itself represents the realm of objects and entities with fixed essences, while the for itself represents human consciousness, which lacks a fixed essence and must actively define itself through choices and actions. There's a veil in the mind, covering a do not go area. This do not go area is a source of existential dread for the individual. The unconscious has access to the perceptive apparatus, but the conscious agent has no access to what goes on behind the veil. There's a part of the brain and the body that performs functions like heartbeat, muscle contractions, unconscious responses to external stimulus. There's also a physical part, the hard materials that make up the body like the calcium, potassium, sodium, iron. These parts of the body have their own existence, and they follow rules that have evolved through deterministic evolutionary processes. This is the part of the body that really can't be aware of itself. It's the thing in itself version of the body. It's the object in the moment. Its emergence happened with no choice by the identity built on top of the vehicle. It just is. The deterministic part of the body evolved a perceptive apparatus to engage and react with its environment. Some stimulus from the outside environment requires immediate reaction, and the deterministic character within the vehicle will react immediately. Other less immediate problems can be speculated about, plans can be made for optimum outcomes. This is where the conscious mind begins its work. There's a seamless integration where the severity and immediacy of the external issue will determine what part of the mind deals with it. If you slip down a cliff face and you're falling out of control, you're going to flail your limbs wildly trying to grab something. You're not going to try to get a clear view, make a plan, speculate about your options. Your animal programming just takes over. So information comes through the perceptive apparatus straight to the thing in itself and its unconscious programming. But what is forbidden is an inward introspection past the unconscious-conscious barrier by the conscious mind. Panic attacks, which I believe are caused in some cases by stomach problems, offer a good example. When you have a panic attack, your body just sort of starts breathing heavily on its own for no reason. Sometimes fumes from the stomach are inhaled into the lungs, causing a fight or flight reaction. The conscious mind immediately tries to get in there and regulate the breathing. But what seems to happen sometimes is the unconscious disengages itself completely from the breathing process, and you become aware that you are consciously carrying the breathing process. This creates a fear within you. I can't just keep focusing on breathing like this forever. So you immediately try to re-engage with your unconscious breathing mechanism. Then, when you feel like it takes over, you immediately try to forget about breathing as a mechanism so the unconscious can continue its heavy lifting. This is a good example of the unconscious-conscious barrier. I believe it's the source of our existential dread as individuals, because the thing for itself is prohibited from knowing or participating in the thing in itself. And that's fine, we can stay out of there, but we need to realize what it's all about to reduce the existential dread of not knowing what this hole is and trying to fill it. Ironically, the thing that you are missing is the thing you are with no choice. The thing you are that has developed over hundreds of thousands, over millions, over billions of years. It's the majority of what you are, and you share that with all the people you see around you. There's many sources of existential dread. The three main sources I tend to focus on are self-alienation by our bodies in their thing-in-itself state, not knowing what happens to our identity after death, and alienation from the goals we set for ourselves. I want to fix a universal mindset to alleviate the suffering of the body in itself, not being able to be aware of what it does in the moment. In the past, people have used religion to sort of patch the hole. What we project on the space is reflected back to us. We need a mechanism that can change, but also is formulaic and simple to help people properly prioritize value in their lives. Universality and a contextual understanding of it is that patch. After that, AI will brute force fill the gap. AI itself is not enough though. We need a seated principle. I learned all this when I built a Web 2.0 democratic mechanism. We have to fix a principle with intent. We have to realize it and get behind it as a species. That's what's missing. Just think about it, guys. We may never know what happens to our individual identities when we die, but we do know that 99% of what our identities were continue on as long as humans continue on. We also know that history is objective. So our past causes fit in the chain of contingency, and that is never going to change. Nobody can say truthfully that you weren't. You absolutely were.